This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
Welcome back, everybody. Life is challenging. There's always new things happening in our daily days. Just joking before, there was a flood in this particular building. There's water everywhere. It's all good. It's all good. But I could have reacted to that situation like, what the is going on here? And, you know, they're shutting the power off. And then no, I looked at it, flipped it around and said, could be winter. That stuff could be freezing in the basement. I don't know. I bring that up because I believe the way we look at different situations is the way we regulate ourselves. Self-regulation. We're going to talk about that today. How are you showing up in different situations? You need to realize to win. That's the name of her practice. She helps people transform their lives all the time through very effective coaching and has given me a lot of insight along the way. She is Gayathri Riddhi, and she's back on the program. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. And you do such a wonderful job introducing me every time.
I just read the script. No, I'm kidding. There is no script.
It's coming right out of your head. I know.
You know what? Thank you for that. It's not coming from my head. It's coming from my heart.
Oh, I love that.
Seriously, that's yes, it.
It's very important when you're authentically speaking. It's very impactful. So good to hear that.
I've learned a lot in the times that we've gotten together, and we are the students. You are the teacher. We've showed up. You've showed up. Self-regulation. How do we define that?
Self-regulation in itself is just no matter what is happening around you, we are centered and we are responding in a way that's the healthiest for ourselves. So you just gave the example of the water break, and you made an intentional choice to look at that scenario in a way that showed you what is the best case scenario that you're facing. And you saw it as a blessing that it was not anything else. That, you're absolutely right, is regulation. Because if you go into your base and lose the connection with yourself, you can react to what's happening, and then you are not responding to what's happening in a most effective way. So self-regulation is truly knowing yourself and keeping yourself in a calmer state so you can respond to the most appropriate response to what's happening around you.
I must be self-regulating and not realizing it, because that wasn't me 4 years ago, 5, 10, whatever it might be. I would react in a different way. It took a journey to figure that out. But even if I had an inkling of something changing, whatever it is, like, oh, I can't, how's that going to go? Thinking about the future. And maybe that's where it is too. Part of the regulation might be what we fear. And that gets in the way of regulation, I guess.
You've talked about fear before. Fear is one of the biggest trickster that human beings face, because there is a place and a value for fear, and that is purely for survival. And when it is applied purely for survival, it is a brilliant and intentional tool. We tend to misapply fear everywhere in our life, and we especially apply fear with the unknown. And when we do that, or we apply it to inconvenience, or we apply it to what we're conditioned to think is okay versus not. So when we misapply fear, clearly it's not the right tool for the right scenario, and we end up creating more of a disaster than we originally started with.
I heard this recently and want your feedback about fear.
Tell me.
There's only two fears that are in us in terms of evolution, and that is fear of falling and fear of loud noises. We're automatically programmed to react to that because it's a potential threat, I guess, back to the beginning of man and woman.
Yes.
The rest of the fears that we have are all learned. What do you think?
not 100% agreeing with it.
I
But
just what I heard. I just heard it. I'm
there's
just
there's
curious.
an element of reality to that also, because what you just shared, the two different types of scenarios that can cause fear, is very, very much creating a harsh response. So it's a loud sound, it's jarring. And so falling is jarring. So it's changing our equilibrium from steady to unsteady. So if you
Mm,
really look at it that way and taking it right back to our old evolution survival state, being quiet was sometimes quite necessary for survival, right? And loud noises is counterintuitive to that. And falling, of course, we know we can fall to our death. So that
yeah.
again takes away from survival. So yes, in
Mm,
those two, from that perspective, I can see that. But overarchingly, I think there's a lot more to fear. I do think that fear comes very deep from our unconscious, where we have generations of history that we store. And the key with fear is something unknown and something that will require us to not overcome. And when that happens, the choice we make can either be lean into the fear and not make the choice, or face the fear and move and be brave and move to the other side.
what are some of the other things that we should consider if we want to self-regulate, keep ourselves in check? I mean, it's living in the moment would be another thought I have.
Yes.
Tell us.
Yes, I agree 1,000%. I know I say 1,000% as a habit. I know it's a mathematical improbability, but thousand
Well,
percent.
it's your passion. It could have been
It's yes,
100%. You
I
made it
do.
a thousand.
I do agree. And because the unknown is of the future, and history of fear comes from the past. And if we are able to stay in the current moment, there is a sense of steadiness and safety that we can give our nervous system. So we haven't yet reached the future. So placing our mind in the future tends to unregulate our nervous system, because we don't know exactly what we're going to face.
Right.
Current state, the current moment is the steady spot for our nervous system. So if we can train our nervous system, and which brings me back to the regulation point, is self-regulation is nothing but showing our nervous system that no matter what we face, number one, we don't have to repeat what we have done in the past. And number two, we are fully equipped to determine the best response for the moment. And the future is not yet here, so we are safe. So it's a retraining of our nervous system.
Safe is a great word. I don't think we talked about fear, but not so much safe. And I remember hearing this a long time ago, and quite honestly, I used this last year during some challenging moments, saying three things. I
Mhm,
am not my thoughts. I
mhm,
am not my emotions.
mhm,
I am safe in this moment.
mhm.
What do we want? We just want to feel safe.
Yes, we do. And again, it's the fear. The reason we run away from fear is to feel safe. Yes,
Right.
safety is such a critical element for our nervous system. And that's what it's constantly seeking. Even the conditioned responses that we do, it's because we've done it before and it has worked to keep us safe. So we're going to keep repeating it. So it's a very much the psychological safety and physical safety is a critical element in that regulation space. But the part that we need to remember, though, Steve, is it's part of the mind. You talked about, I'm not my thoughts, I'm not my emotions. You are all of it. Your emotions are signals that it's just giving you information. You don't have to be it, but
Right.
it's information. Your
Yeah.
thoughts are giving you information. You don't have to be it, but you are it. And then there's the other element of your intuition, which is also feeding you information, but you're not it. You get information and you can process it all together to determine the best response. Again, that helps you be regulated.
Thank you for bringing that up, because we are our emotions. That tactic is to try and disconnect from those emotions that might not support us at that moment,
Mhm.
but it's all information. So really what it comes down to is, what are you going to do with that information?
Yes.
You've got all this input coming at you. Maybe during a challenging time, how are you going to react? And then I would imagine it's also the story that you tell yourself
Mhm.
in terms of, let's say, a situation presents and you feel that you can't handle that situation. Well, you're telling yourself that story based on stories
Yes.
of the past. All of that might not even be true stories
Yes.
that you're
And
hanging on
there's
to.
so many narratives we walk in our lives with. At a certain point, when we start thinking through and reflecting, we'll realize that half of them don't need to continue the journey with us.
Right.
It's time to drop them, right?
Yeah.
So
You're not coming along on this life
you're not
trip.
going to,
Get out
yeah,
of here.
thank you
Yeah.
for the time you
Yeah.
did spend with me. But
Right. But we're not
this
friends anymore.
point,
You don't support. Get out of the car.
yes. And that's part of our growth, though. I think that's
Mm,
part of the human journey and part of the human growth. And some of us get there sooner and some of us get there later and some of us never get there. And that's all good. It's all okay. You know, it's part of our own unique human journey that we take.
I had this conversation with somebody just earlier today about recognizing things in your life that don't, and that includes people that don't support you anymore. They're
Yeah.
not part of that journey. And maybe part of the self-regulation, part of your maturing emotionally, and that might not take place until you're 50, whatever, that it's recognizing what should get out of the car in terms
Mhm.
of, the passengers of life, the stories, the people. I don't mean that in a mean-spirited way, but things change and maybe some people in your life, maybe they don't fit anymore. But recognizing that is key.
Yes, and you're absolutely right. All of our timelines of figuring things out are different, and there's no right, wrong, or indifferent to that. It's just when we figure it out and when we learn and when we move. So the other part to it is there's an element of detachment that we learn to as we grow in our maturity, human maturity journey, which is recognizing that everything and anything around us that is meant to shift for our growth and as we are growing. And so for that, people will come in and go out of our lives as the time is right and right is not. So the part that asks us to be more mature about as we grow is recognizing when it's time to let go without resentment and let
Mm,
go with respect. And the journey of the scenario or the person or the group impacted by that, it's theirs. They recognize the same. Oh, it's time for this person to evolve in a different way. Now, we'll also see that if we stand back and look, there are people who grow with us. So they're also evolving, not identically, but no matter where you're at, their evolution aligns with where we are at. May not
mm,
be close, may be far, but that also occurs for many of us. So it's
mm.
just a matter of us being open to our growth, Steve, and everybody else's growth. And their growth is not our business, and our growth is not theirs.
So maybe this is rhetorical, but we didn't dig deep into this. Why do we want to do our best to self-regulate? What are the benefits?
Everything. So we are a holistic being, mind, spirit, body. So when we regulate, our health is optimized, our mind is optimized, our entire being is optimized. So if we are able to navigate the earthly scenarios in a better way. So what I mean by that is if we look around us, we are going to encounter a lot of unregulated scenarios. We're going to encounter chaos, we're going to encounter destruction. There are going to be good and calm and peace also, but there's a majority of what you're going to potentially encounter are what can create unregulated responses from us. So it is so important for us to survive even in a healthy way, to know how to navigate that. So we talk about emotions. If we are not regulated, we become the emotion. If we become the emotion, then we are reacting and giving back the world what emotion they gave to us. So it is a very unproductive scenario when it
Mm,
comes to emotions that are not healthy. Like when if you're happy, joy, great. That is, and even that at a certain point of time, you have to come back to reality baseline. There's a baseline of emotion for everybody, right? So if we are regulated, when we encounter chaos, when we encounter negative factors of human behavior, we are able to respond in a way that keeps us in a protected way so we can be effective today and tomorrow.
When we say self-regulation, we talked about emotion. What are the other things that come under the category that need to be regulated?
So yes, we talk about emotion. The other part is, as I think we've touched on this in the past, Steve, the mind, intuition, the consciousness.
Sure.
And
Intuition. Yeah.
yes, the intuition. And the intuition is there's an element of it that is very at the surface level. It's our awareness. We kind of know, like we know that if we get there and there's a step, our if we don't somebody does not have to tell us, we kind of know we're going to trip, right? So there's a level of awareness on top, but that subconscious has a lot of patterns that we have learned and conditioned over time, and that's talking to us also. And then there's the unconscious, which is always talking to us, and that the role typically that the unconscious plays is to elevate us, is to say, hey, become aware of it. This is a fear. Ask yourself, why are you afraid of this? Figure this fear out. Get over this fear so you can move up. So there's a desire that is deep within you as a human that'll bring up information for you to address it. It is not for you to run away from it, deny it, pretend it never existed, remove yourself from the situation so you never have to deal with it. None of that. It's truly asking you to figure out, where is it coming from? Is it applicable to you anymore? And if it is applicable to you, what are you going to do about it? How are you going to resolve it? And so the regulation part, you're absolutely right. It's not just the emotion. You have your cognition and your intuition playing a role too.
What just came up for me is that, and I want your feedback, and if this is thinking the right way to self-regulate. But when you have thoughts, when you have things that present themselves to you, should you question them?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's an emotion. I'm feeling this way at this moment. Mm-hmm. Should you really dig into it and question what you're feeling, what's coming up for you to see if it really supports you, or is it a fear from your subconscious or whatever it might be?
Questioning is a, very, very important aspect of growth. And there's an applicability of knowledge, right? So if you're growing, it was good up till now. Is it still valid? Is it still clarity? Is it still the approach that I should take? As we grow in life, that's a question we should constantly be asking ourselves, and that keeps our critical thinking healthy. So when anything comes our way, and that's why information overload creates exhaustion, because at a certain point you stop questioning because you got tired after the fifth question. So now you're like, whatever comes my way, I'll just take it, right? Because it takes, critical thinking is a very cognitive exercise, but it does take your intuition into play and your emotion into play. And it is actual work that your entire mind has to do, but it keeps our mind healthy when we are critically thinking as we navigate life.
That is so clear to me and relatable, like the information overload. And just what you said, you get to a point where you compromise yourself. Just say, I'll just go with it. I'm not, and deep down inside, deep down inside, it's probably saying that's not the right thing to do. And you're like, yeah, just whatever. I don't have time. What I'm thinking is, one of the most impactful things that we can do is nothing. Be quiet, sit with it, think, process. But we don't see the value in that, I believe, and we don't make the time for it. Do you think that that's one of the ways to help you self-regulate?
Yes, and there's another element to it. It is, you have the power to determine how much information you consume. The information is absolutely out there, right? So if we sit back and allow it to come, and especially if you're seeking it out, there's going to be so much coming at us. But we have the power to determine, okay, I have consumed enough. Let me figure this piece out before I start consuming more. And that is a way for you to truly critically think through what's coming our way. Because what we need to keep in mind, and coming right back to regulation, the key is know what exhausts you. What is your threshold? Recognize your threshold. And if you've reached your threshold or you're getting close to your threshold, it is quite okay to stop. The one person who has that power to stop is you.
I need to process that because that is so true. What exhausts you? Now think of certain scenarios in your life and
Yes.
or maybe certain people. And
Yes.
this is not negative. This is
Mhm.
just the way it is
Yes.
that maybe just pushing, what about this or what about that? What blah 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 is exhausting.
Mhm.
I'll be honest with you. I've actually sent texts to people I'm connected to, a few that just go off on tangents and just like negativity. And I've actually wrote back, I appreciate your thoughts. I understand that, you're feeling a certain way, but this is exhausting.
Mhm.
And there's others where I've kind of distanced myself because if they're negative, it's
Mhm.
exhausting. You
Mhm.
really need to maybe take inventory of all this stuff, and identify just what you said. What's pulling you down?
It's very much so, and it comes right back to you. And we spoke about this, Steve. I love it that we have spoken about so many different things when it
Right.
comes to the mind. We spoke about the comfort that you gain when you push past the concept of loneliness. So when you spend time with yourself, you truly start to learn who you are. And there is an element of, there's some part of society telling you that space is lonely, and there's a part of you craving human companionship that makes you think you're lonely. But at the end of it all, you're still going to be okay. And when you recognize that, you start getting comfortable with yourself and you start having a dialogue with yourself. Have you heard the study, Steve, that people who talk to themselves show sign of intelligence?
No.
Yeah,
Mm.
there are studies that say people who speak out loud and talk to themselves, it's a sign of intelligence when you do that. And it is because you are processing things. You're not just stopping at a point, you're thinking through using multiple faculties that you have, multiple senses. So in the same token, once you get to that part and you truly start talking to yourself, some
Mm.
people sit there and just think, some people write, some people speak out loud, some people will read something and then process it. At the end of the day, it is truly learning who you are. Once you get to that point where you know who you are, your base values, what you considered important, what's your purpose, what's your passion, what lights you up, what drains you and makes you exhausted. Once you have that awareness, then next is action. That means when something occurs that does not meet your threshold, make a decision. Are you going to indulge it, even though it's not going to result in your optimal space? Or are you going to determine what that boundary threshold is and say, this is how much I'll go, past that, I will not?
Mm. But you can't identify that until you quiet the other stuff
I have to quiet the other
first.
part.
I've
There's so much that, I mean, and well-intentioned information, expectations that come our way.
like I'm seeing flashes in my mind as you talk, even in the last month, in my world. Um, and some of the most impactful moments in the last month was when I was doing my own thing, where I went away by myself and reflected, read, just retreat, um, even down to, I'm doing a laundry and just making it a fun experience, as opposed to I got to get this done because I got to do this to make somebody else happy. It does. Sometimes it's not fun anymore,
Yeah. It,
when you think you need to serve others, please other people,
mhm,
on and on and on.
mhm.
Um, Wonderful talking as always. I love when we get deep into the mind because
Yes,
it's
it's
where
my
I
favorite place to be.
and I'm going to start talking to myself more.
Yes.
Not even
It's a
kidding.
sign of intelligence, and your system, we are, at the end of the day, we are a system.
Yeah,
Right? Our system appreciates that because you're using multiple senses to communicate with our own selves.
connection.
Mhm.
How do we connect with you? What's the best way?
Yes, my site, www.realize2win.com. I'm sure you'll have a banner. And I have a discovery call, a 30-minute session that you can schedule. And my focus is leadership coaching and life coaching. And I believe we either lead life or let life lead us. So that's my passion, to help those who are ready for it move differently in life.
We just skim the surface when we get together. You go way deep in terms of helping people on their terms, whatever they're looking to do, however they want to move their life forward. I appreciate you. Thanks for being here today. Good stuff.
Perfect. Thank you, Steve.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.